I'm here.
All right, you're hearing loud and clear. Tell us a little bit about the devil at the doorstep. We're talking about unions, are we not?
Yeah, we are, Doug. My book, The Devil at My Doorstep, involves or chronicles our fight against the Service Employees International Union when they tried to come in without invitation, by the way, and force unionize our employees across the Midwest. And most people don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, but what they wanted me to do was sign a neutrality agreement, which in effect institutes card check. And if people aren't familiar with that, that's where they eliminate the secret ballot election and allow the union thugs just to go out and intimidate people into signing cards. And I refused to sign the neutrality agreement, and they looked at me and they said, "We enjoy conversation, but we embrace confrontation. We're going to attack you, your employees, your customers." And they did, and we had a 5-year battle, and we ended up winning. And so I wrote the book, trying to wake America up.
My goodness. Well, let's go ahead and tell our listeners, too, a little bit about your involvement. You're president and CEO of EMS, which is an industry leader in the field of environmental workplace maintenance. And this is a company that you had founded yourself, right? So tell us a little bit about, let's go back a little bit and tell us about EMS and starting that up.
Well, I like to tell people, by the way, that I've got a master's degree in microbiology, and we clean toilets for a living.
There you go.
Lots of toilets, but
qualified to be in Congress.
There you go. And for years, I worked in the agribusiness industry and got out of that and got into the cleaning industry, commercial cleaning industry. And I worked for a guy for 3.5 years and left him and started EMS in 1989. And it was just me, and my wife went back to work as a legal secretary so we'd have income. And we've worked and grown the business over the years till the day that we operate in 38 states and have over 5,000 employees.
Wow. So that prompted the SEIU to target your company. Tell us a little bit about how you first became aware that you were a target.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's important, and I talk about this in my book, but the reason I left the previous cleaning company I was with is because I didn't like the management style and how they treated people and that. So when we started EMS, we were very cognizant of the fact that we needed to treat people as human beings and with respect. And in our industry, quite honestly, over the years, there's been a lot of competitors who don't pay benefits and things like that. We started doing that in the mid-'90s, and so we were trying to do all the right things. And by 2005, when the SEIU notified me by a letter that they wanted to sit down and talk to me, I was shocked because I'm sitting there thinking, we're doing all the right things. Why are they coming after us? Right. And the answer is they're indiscriminate. They don't care who they come after because they're all about membership and membership dues. And so I ignored the letter, and then they started sending me emails and leaving me voicemails that would be in my best interest to sit down and talk with them. And
Did the letter come with an accent? It's really in your best interest to sit down and talk with us a little bit here. Go ahead.
No, but their voicemails and that afterwards did, and I was we were familiar with the SEIU and their tactics, and the fact that they really don't do that much for employees except collect their dues and use them politically, and so we just ignored them, and then we finally had that meeting where they made that threat to me, and we went from there.
Well, and when you got this letter, and you were surprised because, as you indicated, you and your wife have Barbara and daughter Callie, Mark's son, everyone has a family operation. Son Brian, successful engineer. So when you get this thing and it comes out of the clear blue, you said you're surprised. You must have been like, why am I so lucky? Why did I get this? What did you do at that point? Did you start to put some feelers out among the company to find out who might be, interested in coordinating with the SEIU? Did you ever discover who was the catalyst for this, or did you got 5,000 employees and that's a lot of union dues, and they just did it because they could?
Well, that's the interesting thing, and this is what people don't understand. This is a business. The SEIU is a business. Most big labor organizations anymore are. And, years ago, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they served a valid purpose in helping employees. But, they've morphed into organizations that all they care about is political power and money. And I was aware of that. And the truth is their businesses, and what they do is they look at a region. Like when they first came after us, they had a 3 cities, 1 future concept. So they attacked us in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio. And no employees invited them to come, okay? What they do is they look at it and say, hey, if we organize this many companies in these cities, and there's this many janitors times whatever they're going to charge for dues, this is our revenues, this is our cost, and this is what we'll make on the bottom end. And that's exactly how it happens.
We're talking today about the SEIU. We're talking with David Vago, and he has got a book out, The Devil at My Doorstep, and the website for that is quite simply in one word, thedevilatmydoorstep.com, thedevilatmydoorstep.com. And this book chronicles the battle that David had with his family-owned operation, fighting off arguably, I guess, the most powerful union in the North American continent. SEIU has certainly got their tentacles everywhere, and are they not probably the largest member of the AFL-CIO now, or?
Well,
they're huge.
They're not actually affiliated with the AFL-CIO anymore.
They're their own group.
Yeah, they're their own groups, and last I knew, they had about 2.2 million members, which puts them as the largest union in the country. And their president, past president, Andy Stern, was the gentleman that had been in the Obama White House 22 times in the first year. So it tells you a little bit about their political leanings and what they're doing to achieve their goals.
Well, and tell us a little bit about the battle itself. So you got this letter. You figured out they were targeting your companies with your 3 affiliates in 3 specific areas. What happened then? Did any employees ever end up being, let's say, union Norma Ray types? I mean, did any of them step forward and said, David and the family have just been screwing us over. We got to go with the SEIU. We got blah blah. Did that ever occur? Did they ever entice anyone to become organized, or did they even need to with the modern day with emails and social networking and everything else? Do they even need that?
Well, it's interesting. They did a lot of. First of all, they did a lot of things. They started passing out flyers and brochures. They wrote letters to our customers telling them how bad we were and how we abused and took advantage of employees. They had rallies in front of our buildings in Cincinnati and Indianapolis in particular. Also in Pittsburgh and St. Louis, even though those weren't the main targets of attack. They had clergy groups that they recruited to help them make us look bad and go after our customers. They had union organizers on the street trying to intimidate our employees and that. And it went on and on. They filed unfair labor practices against us. They filed OSHA complaints against us, EEOC complaints, everything they could to make us break down and sign this neutrality agreement. The interesting thing is, after almost 3 years of this, they finally, their last ditch effort was to get some of our people to go on strike here in Indianapolis. And we have about 600 employees in the Indianapolis area. Out of that, they got 10 people to go on strike. And out of that, half of those we know were union salts, people they had salted into our ranks. So that kind of gives you an idea how much interest our people had.
Well, this is really, this is a horrific outline that you're telling us of, an entrepreneur like yourself just swept into the murky underworld of union organization and intimidation and threats. And I mean, we've been involved in politics. I mean, we hear stuff like this all the time, but Good grief. This must have been, I mean, I'm impressed that you weathered the storm. You decided to pick up the mantle of what's right and instead of caving, which most people, quite frankly, do. I mean, let's face it. I mean, America has become compliant. All this nonsense we hear all the time of, let's meet you halfway and let's compromise and gosh, let's reach across the aisle and all that. I say reach across the aisle, pull them over, and kick them in the ass. I mean, there's no reason why. There's no reason for compromise on matters of principle. I mean, we wouldn't have a republic if our founding fathers had compromised with the King of England. Of course, that's simplistic, but the bottom line is you stood up. Now, at what cost, though? I mean, this must have been an extremely stressful situation. I mean, your wife's involved, you've got a daughter involved, you've got a son involved, directly involved in the company. I mean, tell us a little bit about the personal side and the personal damage, if you will, that they tried to wreak on not only your business but on your family.
Well, it is sad, and Doug, the truth is I'm a big boy. I've been through the wars in business. I played college basketball and baseball. I got beat up, so I could deal with that. But during that time period, we spent close to $1 million just defending ourselves legally from all the unfair labor practices and OSHA complaints. Like one of the OSHA complaints, for example, is we cleaned a college down in Cincinnati. They filed an OSHA complaint that said we were forcing our employees to carry human body parts out in bags at night. It wasn't even, I mean, it's crazy stuff, but you have to defend yourself.
Human body parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like Halloween here in Indianapolis in 2007, in the neighborhood that we lived in, they had little kids trick-or-treating in the neighborhood. And as they got their candy, they handed them flyers, our neighbors' flyers that said, houses of horror, every night buildings cleaned by EMS, people are abused. And, then on the streets there was union thugs in cars driving up and down the streets. Our neighbors were terrified. And this kind of stuff went on and same with employees, and that's what bothered me most was the employees. We had one gal in downtown Indianapolis that we actually have an affidavit from that says she'd leave the building at night, and the union thugs would come after her and say, we want you to sign this union card. And she'd say, no, I'm happy, leave me alone. And this went on for a couple of weeks, and then they started offering her money, and she says, please leave me alone. She was so scared she had our supervisors walking her out of the building at night because they'd follow her to her car and hold her car door shut. And finally, after, I guess, almost a couple of months, one of them, the union thugs, went to her and said, look, you're going to be union whether you like it or not, sign the darn card. And she did. Jeez. And this is the kind of stuff that was going on all the time. So, yeah, there was a lot of stress, but, something, Doug, we knew we were doing the right thing because our people didn't want it, and it's not the American way to force unionize or force people into doing things they don't want to do.
No, it really isn't. And you made a good observation earlier where you said, at the beginning of the 20th century, that unions actually did play a purpose, and I actually personally believe that too. I'm a big fan of Theodore Roosevelt, and in spite of some of my conservative Republicans who lambast him now as being a progressive, some call him a socialist, but child labor laws, labor laws, 40-hour work week, things of that nature, really were, I think, necessities for evening out, if you will, the incredible, the disconnect between business and corporate America and the Gilded Age, this uber wealthy and basically, kids that were making pennies a day and dying in fires and things like that. So I mean, I have the empathy and the historical perspective there to acknowledge what you said is absolutely correct. That at one point they served almost a humanitarian purpose, and probably some of the great union leaders of the legendary, iconic union leaders probably were good men. They were probably mostly all men, but you're right. Now it's become it's mob infested. Obviously, what you've outlined and what you outline in your book are some of the tactics that have been used by the mob. And now that they have a compliant government with them, that must be even more horrific, because you said $1 million in legal fees. I mean, that's not, that's not chicken feed. I mean, that's getting to be real money, especially if it's coming out of your pocket. And no one ever told you when you built a business model you need to set aside $1 million for fighting union organization, unwanted union organization. I mean, that must have been. And what's interesting too, and tell us a little about this, hurts the company and it hurts the employees too, because you're taking resources out of whatever cash flow or wherever it came from, and you're applying it toward that expense is totally unnecessary.
Well, that's absolutely right, and that's the sad part about it, and then also the mental strain in that on everybody that's involved, including the employees. And the end of the day, if I'd have signed the agreement, which by the way I'm the only one in those cities that didn't, all the other major companies did, and our people now make as much or more money than the union people, have just as good or better benefits, and they don't pay the union dues every month. And all these poor people out there that didn't care for the union are having to pay the dues, and that's really the sad part of the whole thing. And on top of that, you have business owners that I've had them come to me since then. They said, "We wish we'd have stood with you because we see what's going on," and we've had other ones that come to us and said, "Dave, we agree with you, and we believe in your fight, but quite honestly, we don't want it to be attacked by the unions, because if we did, we would fold. We couldn't put up with the pressure."
Well, you've got quite a compelling story, David. Again, the book title is The Devil at My Doorstep. The website is thedevilatmydoorstep.com. We urge all of you to pick this book up and go to the website and join in the cause. Now, David, you're not just leaving it here with a book. You're not just publishing the book and saying, "Okay, that's it, I'm done." What is your agenda for the foreseeable future?
Well, I have two or three things I'm working on right now. One is I do have a blog where I talk about some of the stuff and what's going on behind the scenes, because with the current administration, through executive orders and regulation changes, they are trying to give the unions and big labor a big advantage over businesses so they can force unionized people. In fact, last week they came out with a regulation where they're going to speed up elections, which is just a card check through the back door. The other thing that I do is that I'm working on right to work for here in Indiana. I know you have it down in Florida, but
yes, we do. God save us! I tell you, if we didn't have that, of course, that's in our Constitution. So the unions have tried to take it out, but they, requires a majority, 60% vote. So anyway, go ahead.
Right.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that's a great.
Well, that's fine. No, I'm working with that. I'm working with some of the legislators and the governor to try and get that passed here in Indiana. And then the third thing is I do have a new book that's going to be coming out here, I hope, at the end of the year. That's called The Devil at Our Doorstep, which chronicles some of the political ends of it, where the money's going from the union dues, some of the corruption that's going on, also new stories about some of our victories, and then some new stories about other businesses that have come to me facing the same thing, and employees from other other businesses that have come to me and don't like what the unions are doing. So it's pretty interesting. I think slowly we're waking people up what's going on.
Well, I commend you for accepting the challenge of doing what's right, because quite frankly in today's society it's becoming increasingly difficult to find people that will stand up for what's right, because there is a cost to that, and a lot of people just are not willing or even capable of paying the price, if you will, for standing up for freedom. So we commend you for that. I can't, to me it's unimaginable some of the things that you just touched on briefly. And I assume in the book, which I don't have a copy of for some reason, Devil at My Doorstep, in the book you outline exactly what happened and how this went down chronologically and things like that.
Yeah, we did, and all the stories in that.
The Halloween thing was pretty clever, and how wonderful is that? Terrorize your neighbors. They say they would get a treat, or they'd get a treat, and then they'd return it with a trick.
Right. It's I mean, and they are clever people. They come up with a lot of different things. It's like the clergy people.
Well, it's always
they
good
use
to get the church involved. Must have been the Catholic Church, because they're willing accomplices down here with all the immigration issues and everything else. Every time we start talking about shipping out illegal aliens, the church starts attacking us for being, inhuman.
Well, if I may, let me tell you a quick story about the church that you won't believe. They get this group together called Interfaith Workers Justice Group. Does it out of Chicago to support these union initiatives, and they wanted to have a meeting with me and my daughter Kelly, and we talk about this in the book. But I went in to sit down, and there were 6 clergy people. The first, a Methodist member, and he looked at me and he says, "David, we want you to be neutral." And I said, "Reverend, I am neutral. I've offered the union to have an election, and I'll live with the results." And they've turned me down every time. He says, "David, by neutral, we mean we want you to sign a neutrality agreement." I said, "Well, Reverend, have you ever seen or read a neutrality agreement?" He says, "No, we don't care. We just want you to be union." So I look at the next clergy, and it's a Catholic priest, and I am Catholic, by the way. And I said, "Father, you understand that, we do the best we can by our employees. We pay above industry standards, and we have the best equipment and chemicals because we have our own supply company, and we try to do the right things." And he looked at me. He says, "We don't care about the facts. All we care about is that you're a union." Can you believe that?
Unfortunately, I do. I do believe it, because it's just unbelievable. Though the one aspect of it's unbelievable is the octopus-like tentacles that groups like the SEIU have on religious groups and other social networking type operations, things like that. I mean, League of Women Voters. I mean, there's a whole host of folks that are willing participants in promoting this viewpoint, and especially as you said, you said, "Hey, we'll have a vote." That's the American way, right? No,
absolutely.
No. We don't want to do a vote. We don't want to vote. We don't want no stinking vote. And that's, to me, that's outrageous. What is before we let you go, and I know I'm keeping you probably a little bit later here, but...
No, I'm happy to talk about it, because I'm trying to get people in this country to wake up.
Well, we've got to, and this is a critically important issue, because it increases costs on consumers, which is another aspect of this that no one really thinks about. It's one thing to have a union battle, but the cost of the battle and the cost of unionization has risen prices for consumers and taxpayers across this nation. And they did it here, quite frankly. SEIU organized the city of Orlando. When our liberal Democrat Mayor Buddy Dyer came into office, 17% of the city of Orlando workers were unionized. Now it's 92%. And the SEIU is the union for nearly all the workers in the city of Orlando. And our taxes have gone up through the roof. And no one ever puts 2 and 2 together. And we try and put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4, actually. And the media's like, that's not really news.
Well, that's the problem. The mainstream media won't pick it up, and for a couple of reasons. One, they're sympathetic to the unions for the most part. The second is they're afraid of them. It's kind of like...
Well, I can see why.
Yeah. Like Glenn Beck, he was on Fox for a long time, and he started going after the SEIU. Then all of a sudden he got quiet, then a year later he's gone. Mm-hmm. Well, I believe a lot of that is due to the fact that we heard behind the scenes that the SEIU went to Fox and said, "Look, if you don't have him, tone it down, we're going to go after your advertisers." Mm-hmm. Well, that's where they get their money.
Right. No, Fox is a business just like anyone else. We're a Fox affiliate, but we've had problems with Fox also because they've not printed the truth. They print the truth more than anyone else, but sometimes they are, any business is susceptible to a type of pressure. So I'm trying to think of what I was going to what I was going to ask was, what is the current status of the card legislation? Because it was my understanding 3 years ago when they made a huge push for this, and everyone said it would be a done deal by the end of the year or whatever, and then it got killed off. What is the current status? Is this thing on life support? Is SEIU still pushing it? What's the deal?
Well, here's the problem. From a legislative standpoint, it's dead right now because, in the 2010 elections, they lost the House. So they couldn't get it through. But what this president is trying to do with his recess appointees, Craig Becker and Mark Pierce, is they're trying to change all the regulations in the National Labor Relations Board so that they can prosecute what they call corporate campaigns. The unions can. That's what they ran against me, a corporate campaign. And so that the employers are at a big disadvantage, and they'll just cave in and sign the neutrality agreement. And this neutrality agreement, and I didn't tell you the language in this, but in it, it eliminates the secret ballot election and goes to card check, okay? It puts a gag order on the employer so he can't talk to his employees. You have to sign a letter written by the union that says basically you're in agreement with this process. And the worst part of it is you got to give a list of all your employees and their home addresses so the union thugs can go to their houses and push their way in and make them sign cards. And that's what this president and the National Labor Relations Board is trying to achieve right now. And I have to tell you, based on some of the changes they've already made right now and some more they've got on the docket they're trying to get done before the end of the year, if we had to fight the same battle again with them, I'm not sure we'd win.
Well, that's not good. Well, we salute you for everything that you're doing, David, and we'll have you back on another 2, 3, 4 weeks and tell us what the status is. I want everyone to pick up your book. It'll be a great Christmas present, The Devil at My Doorstep, so everyone can understand the tremendous tentacles this organization has. And I really salute you and your family, especially your wife and your daughter. Women are not usually geared for warfare. You know, they're more the gathering types, but sounds like you all were all fairly well armored, not only with being right, but this is certainly, I mean, I see this also as a biblical struggle, but a lot of people don't. But anyway, I really appreciate you joining us here today, and we support your efforts 100%, and we have, you know, a fairly extensive political operation down here too, so keep us informed of that. In addition to the Guetzloe Report and the Phoenix Network, we have a very extensive conservative political operation, so we'll be more than happy to lend our support to those of you in Indiana that are fighting the good fight, because we are fortunate to have, we are a right-to-work state, and that was placed in the Constitution in '54, and they've tried to take it out, and they just can't. So if we didn't have that, we would have the stories like you have every day down here.
Well, you would, and I thank you for your support, and we'll stay in touch with you. I'll tell you quickly, I've spoken down in Florida several times in West Palm Beach in front of the Tea Party and the Republican Party and some others, and the people when I speak are just amazed at the stories I tell and can't believe this type of thing is going on in America today.
Right. Well, next time you're coming to the Orlando area, please let us know in advance, and we'll set something up here for you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I'll get your address and I'll send a book along to you so you can catch up.
I'd like to read it. David Bago. Go to the website, thedevilatmydoorstep.com. All right, David. Thanks for joining us. Godspeed with your continued success.
Well, thanks, Doug. You have a great day now.
All right. Thank you. You're listening to the Guetzloe Report, the voice of the people.